Well, good evening, my lovely people from the southern part of the United States. I am just a little perplexed at everything that's going on today in today's world. Uh, let's see. I have bought canned goods, a few extra batteries, rice, dried beans, um, a little extra medicine, um, some things that I think I will need just in case of this virus. I have been perusing information on the internet slash also YouTube since the beginning of all this, or the beginning of me knowing of all this, which I would say is January, like most of us. And there are tons of theories out there on where this came from, natural or unnatural, a laboratory, an animal, etc. And I've looked at all of it, and I'm not quite sure, and I'm not going to hang my hat on any particular belief because I'm not a biological scientist who can pull apart viruses, nor would I want to study the makeup and how it's possible. Now, I do know we do have flu every year, and it kills tens of thousands of people across the world. And I know we're not to that point yet with this coronavirus. Um, you know, if you put the more common flu, A type, B type, into the place of the coronavirus, and if you had news coverage of the flu and how it affects certain areas, I just wonder how similar it would look as far as, getting it out there to the public. And, you can make anything look really, really bad if you want to. I mean, with sound bites and clips, you can change what somebody says or the interpretation of what somebody says in the news cycle. That's easy. But we all know that the news that we do get is, bought and paid for. And even the ones that'll step out on a limb are only allowed so far out on that limb before they're pulled back, or the limb will break and they'll fall, no job anymore, etc. There's limitations, and I think all of us have pretty much figured that out by now as to what anybody on television can say. And of course, they're trying to make limitations on what you or I or anybody else can say on a platform such as this, or the internet. That'll be next, even private channels with their own sites. But it'll come eventually unless things switch or change or shift. I'm not so sure. But one thing I have noticed is there seems to be a pattern. If you go back to the 1720s, there were plagues. And then in the 1730s, there was a depression, believe it or not. And then, now the plague, was in Marseille, like around France. So you're looking at about 100,000 people. Now, there were other illnesses that caused many problems throughout the 1700s. And then you had in the 1730s what they consider a depression, a recession. Now, you have to understand that at that point there is no universal banking system, so it's really hard to catch what exactly is going on, and certainly prior to that, um, we could only tell by suffrage and starvation and things like that in prior centuries, actually what was going on. But 1720s and 1730s. So we go to the 1820s and we have an outbreak of cholera. And then in the 1830s, there was another depression, caused mainly by the United States Bank and conflict between them wanting to centralize more and Andrew Jackson being against it at the time. That was a problem. There was a lot of economic turmoil. And then, of course, we get to the 1900s, which most of us are familiar with. We have the 1918, 1920 right in there, the Spanish flu. And then after that, we have the Roaring 20s. And then we have the outbreak of, and of course, World War One. And we have the Roaring 20s, and then we have World War II. But in there was the Spanish flu. So maybe there's a pattern between the 20s and 30s, and maybe they can't get it down to an exact number, but we have major outbreaks and then major wars. I'm not sure. I mean, if that's the case, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, if that's the case, I think today they're having more difficulty pulling this off due to us and communication. And, but, you know, the majority of the population in the United States has no clue. But I do see being out and about, and I've seen a few more posts on Facebook and things where I've noticed that people are questioning things, not just about the virus, but they're just questioning things. And a healthy amount of skepticism, thinking for themselves, even if what they come up with could be totally wrong. At least they're not buying what's on television. That's a positive aspect of it. People just thinking. Now, the people that I'm noticing are doing this, these are older people. You're talking about late 30s, 40s, so they've lived a little bit longer. So the younger ones are still caught in the, I'm not so sure about all this. I mean, they haven't lived long enough. They don't remember what was so different because they weren't here or they were too young. But yeah, a lot of the younger people, unfortunately, I'm not talking about education now, I'm just talking about common sense. They haven't been taught a whole lot. And honestly, if you set up a big, gigantic paper bag, most of them would be amazed because they probably never seen one. And then if you put them in it, even with a hose and a spigot, they probably couldn't figure out how to get out. The old saying, you can't figure out how to get out of a wet paper bag. I think we've gotten to the point where we could actually literally make that happen. It used to be just a joke, but I think nowadays, unfortunately, there is a portion of the population that might prove that to be true. And those are the ones that are not going to be prepared at all. Those are the ones who have no spiritual connection to anything. Those are the ones who are going to be in a sheer panic if there's an emergency and just freak out and be a total detriment to society. They're not going to be a help to anyone. So, those are the ones that can be dangerous, actually. And, you know, you just need to have discernment. You need to do some preparation just in case. And just the natural things that you should do on a normal basis to keep from getting a cold or a flu. I mean, just don't go to people's houses if you're sick, and don't let them over to your house, you know. And that a lot of us did that before all this came about, because it's just a good thing to do. But I don't know what to say, people. I don't know what to say. I mean, if it's not as serious as they're saying it is, then this is a whole lot of pomp and circumstance for something. Obviously, in my mind, there's something, because people are dying. I'd love to know the gender makeup, the age, the genetic makeup of the people that are being screened, who have it, the ones that come down with serious, what the differences are. Maybe ethnic backgrounds could be a possible difference. Gender, they've said, of course, males are more prone, but that's about all I've heard. I would like to see it myself. Of course, they can lay all the figures down on paper and statistics, and, it could be fudged and false. I'd love to have an accurate reading in my dreams, but, it would be nice. So you could do, I guess that's the hard part, is we're giving partial truths, flat out lies, whole truths, but we don't know which ones are which. And we're all skeptical because of good reason. And then what do you do with that? You have your place, you have your home, you have your family or friends or pets, and you need to watch out for yourself first, or you're no good to anyone else. And then you need to watch out for your children second, because they're young and they need to be told and they need to be provided for. And then third, your spouse, partner, etc. And then your extended family. And then if you have anything left over, you can help the rest. But if everybody would do that, we could all, hold on, I guess, and see where this goes. I've heard people talk also about the Georgia Guidestones. One day I got to get over there and see those things. I've seen pictures and, but I have to see this about, bringing the population down to about 500,000 or something like that. And written in so many different languages on the, what they plan on doing. And then, who was it? C.R. Christian put it up, which is probably a fake name. Somebody's done some research on that. But I have to go check those things out. I mean, the nerve of somebody just to come right out and say it. But then, if this is a spiritual battle, there are rules. And the bad side, part of the rules are But they have to tell us what they're going to do or what they plan on doing. So, I think it'll all play out. But how do you change it? How do you tell people? How do you make a difference? Can you make a difference? You can make a difference where you're at. You can make a difference for yourself and those around you. If you believe in a life after here, which I absolutely do, stay on the right track, on the good side, no matter what's thrown at you. And I've had a lot thrown at me, a ton, where I've actually wanted to kill someone for good reason. But you have to be better than what's presented to you, always. And maybe this will be nothing. Maybe, Washington State will end up having a problem, or New York State, or portions of California will have a problem, and it'll never make its way in to us. But I don't know. I don't know. Because I don't really know what it is exactly. And, how long can you carry it? And are you contagious when you're carrying it and showing those symptoms? And if you do get well from it, which it looks like the majority would, are you a permanent carrier? And what does that do to you for the rest of your life? Are there repercussions for that? Is it going to shorten your life somehow? Are you going to show up with problems later because of it? I don't know. And if they know, they're not exactly telling us. And I wish these scientists who are creating biological weapons in laboratories and digging up old viruses out of old carcasses from centuries past and bringing them to fruition and using them and manipulating, or using viruses and bacteria that we already know of today and combining them, or whatever they're doing, need to stop. Because if maybe this is one of the cases where they got loose, maybe not. But they've gotten loose before. There have been cases where it's affected a building, or it's affected an apartment, or it's affected so many hundreds of people before they, figured it out and contained it. But it's happened before. And plus, it's just a cruel way, Nobody faces anybody anymore in a battle. It's just a bunch of arguing at a distance. Now we can press buttons and send off missiles at a distance, It's no longer person-to-person combat, face-to-face, And there'd be a great world without any fighting. But if you have to fight, for whatever reason, personal reason, whatever, it should be a face-to-face, fair contest. But those days are over too. Hell, we wrap our children in helmets and knee pads and elbow pads and car seats, and hell, if we could put them in bubble wrap, we would, to protect them. But some of it's just gone too far. Now we need safe spaces, and people screaming and yelling about, you hurt my feelings, or my feelings this. Good Lord. Could you get any weaker as a person? This world requires strength to live in it. If you're going to interact with other people, or even to be alone and out on your own and surviving, it requires strength. It requires mental fortitude. It requires know-how if, you have moments in your life where shit hits the fan, to figure out how the hell you're going to get out of this and get your life back on track legally. And we're raising a bunch of young children to no fault of their own who would cry if the rain dropped and hit them in the eye when they were looking up. I don't know. It's not doing any justice to your children. I mean, you don't need to raise them in a military atmosphere, but, you need to raise them in a realistic reality atmosphere. Or how are they going to survive? Why do you think a lot of them are still living with their parents? They don't know how. They don't know how to live with 5 roommates and have 3 jobs if they need to. They don't know how. They won't do it. They're too tired. They're exhausted. Somebody hurt their feelings. Somebody's not fair. They don't feel like it. It's not just the economy. It's not just, whatever. Another thing that I've totally changed my mind about, I was raised on, you are going to get a college degree. Of course, I had to do it myself, but okay. What did that do for me? Trade schools, I'm sorry, that's the avenue. Finding something that you can do that people will always need. Always need. Plumbing, welding, putting things together, electrical work, cutting people's hair, whatever. Something they will always need. Always. That's what you need to do. That's how you need to shift your children. Hell, they could own their own plumbing business one day. They could get, mechanics. Things that, will always AC work. Just common sense skills that people need to learn how to do that make the world go round. That'll always be in demand. That's where you need to invest your time and money, and it doesn't cost near as much, and you will get it back tenfold. Unless you're going to go get a 4-year nursing degree or a 4-year engineering degree of some kind, just, don't even. You could be one of the lucky ones, but my advice is don't even. But that's my rant for this evening, and I hope all of you are somewhat prepared just in case you have to self-isolate in the future. It's not a bad idea. Some parts of the United States are kind of clearing the shelves, so pick up a little bit here and there. Every day, every other day, gather what you need. If you don't have a lot of money, peanut butter, rice, dried beans, okay? I know it's not great, but it's cheap. So, peanut butter for protein, pickles for potassium, and they'll last a lot longer than bananas. Make sure you have medicine for fever and things of such. I mean, you might not get the coronavirus. That's not what I'm saying. You could be just home sick. You could be just sick. And you can't go to the doctor because Lord knows what's going on at the hospital where you're located. So, you need something to be able to take care of yourself at home. A thermometer. But I want all of you to take care of yourselves. 6 deaths right now in the U.S. Last I heard this evening. So, I don't know. I wish I had the answers for you. But a lot of their actions seem contradictory and don't make much sense, and I could sit here and pick it apart until the cows come home, and then their explanation would be, well, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We have all this handled. Okay, whatever. But take care of yourselves. There's been quite a few lightning bugs last night and tonight. I love those things. I just love sitting outside. So, anyway, good night all. And please take care.